And we're rolling. Hello everyone, my name is Jake Griffin. I'm a senior at Grand Junction High School, and the Orange and Black, our awesome news team, has provided me an opportunity to share with you my favorite game, and that is chess. I'm going to give you a quick how-to, about 5 minutes, on how to beat your friends in chess anytime. Now it does take practice, so bear with me. Chess is a game of two colors. You have the white and the black, and unfortunately, it is a very old game, which means white will always go first. The board is set up like so. Here we go. Chess is a game of infinite possibilities. However, each piece has a specific move set that they can only do and nothing else. Now, I will teach you the moves for each pieces, and I will teach you the basic idea of how the game is played. However, there are infinitely many strategies and openings and moves that'll make your games better. So let's begin. These first pieces on the first row of both boards are called pawns. They are the smallest on the board, and the pawns are arguably the weakest piece, as they can only move in a certain one space forward as a basic function. There are two special moves for a pawn, which is on the opening position, they can move 2 spaces forward. However, they can never move 2 spaces forward again. In any other situation, the pawn can only move 1 space forward. In the opening, the pawn can also move 1 space forward. It does not matter. A pawn also takes in a special way. Now, if the pawn is set up like this, where the diagonal is the enemy piece, the pawn can capture diagonally, which is that moves into that space on the diagonal, captures that piece, and that piece is off the game. That piece cannot be captured by the pawn moving forward like this. That is an illegal move. The pawn can only capture in a diagonal way, and that can be any piece on the board. It can capture that way. A pawn then can only move forward, never backwards. It can never capture backwards, and it can never move backwards. So the pawn can only move forward. Every other piece in the game is able to move forwards and backwards, depending on what their piece is. The next piece we'll talk about is the bishop. Now the bishop, you have 2 of them every single game. It's the pointed headed with the frowny face. The bishop can only stay on the white squares or the dark squares, depending on which bishop you're looking at. The bishop moves in a diagonal function, like this. However, it can only stay on its color, and it can move however long it wants until it runs into either an enemy piece or one of your own pieces, because a bishop cannot jump over any of their own pieces. It can also not jump over one of these pieces. A bishop captures, similar to a pawn, however, the bishop just moves into that space. See this diagonal line, the bishop can move anywhere on it, and if there's a piece on that line, the bishop will move into that, capture it, and call it good. Bishop can move backwards, and you'll have 2 of them each game. They can never leave dark square or light square, depending on which bishop you have. The next piece we'll talk about is the knight, which is the little horse. This knight moves the weirdest way, as it is different from all the other pieces. The knight can jump over pieces, and it moves in an L shape, which is 2 up and 1 forward, or 1 up and 2 forward. See how it makes this little L shape every time you move it. It can jump over any of your pieces as long as the final square that I'm jumping to is empty. If that final square I wanted to jump to here, I could not do that. This captures in the same way as any other piece, besides the pawns. If it's going to move into an enemy space, it moves to that space, and it will capture that piece and move it this way. The knight is more valuable than the pawns, however not as valuable as the rook or the queen. Knight and bishop, almost the same value when it comes to a good piece. Next piece we'll talk about is the rook. The rook is similar to the bishop, however it moves forward, backwards, and sideways. So the rook is valuable because it can move however far it wants, and also, similar to the other pieces, can capture in a forward motion by landing on that piece. It cannot jump over any pieces. That is not allowed. Next piece is the queen. The queen is the most valuable as it moves in the same way as either a bishop or a rook, meaning diagonally, or front and back, or side to side. The queen can move however many squares she wants in one direction, so the queen cannot move this way and then this way in one turn. And the queen can only move in a straight line that one time. She captures just like the rook or the bishop by moving into that piece and taking that square. And the last piece we'll talk about is the king. The king is the piece you want to protect, and the king is not really an attacking piece, as it can only move in one square in any direction. This king you want to protect at all costs, because if the other player is going to capture the king, you lose the game. And similarly for yourself, you want to capture the other king right here. The king will always be on the opposite color square to start off the game. Queen right here because it's on the white square and we are the white color pieces. This is the king because it's the white colored king on a dark color square. The game is played in turns. White will always go first and black follows. Each turn will consist of a move and each player will have a plan in mind. See, in this case, if I moved forward to start off here and my opponent moved forward here, I could either move my bishop out to the game to start causing some trouble. I can move my knight out here. But anytime I would move a piece, say this knight threatening to take right here next turn, black would want to protect its pieces from getting taken. There are many strategies like this. The only rule is that when you're moving a piece, you cannot move a piece into check. Let's say I am set up here. The king cannot move into a position where I can take his king next turn. That is an illegal move. The king, if it is in this position, so let's say the king started here and I moved here, that would say next turn I will kill your king. That is check, saying that I am in position to kill your king if given the chance. In chess, you will never capture a king. See, in check, you must move out of check. If it is impossible to move out of check, given take away pieces, blah, blah, blah. If it is impossible to move out of check, this is called checkmate, meaning no way can you get out of this and still keep your king. That is how one player will win the game. They will never capture the other player's king. Those are the basics of chess. While there are many more possibilities and openings to learn, many more strategies and ideas, these are the basic rules that you will need to follow in every single chess game. All it takes is practice, it takes memorization, it takes being able to see a board, see what a player is going to do next, and be able to react to it that way. Chess takes practice, it takes patience, and it takes the understanding that you have to outsmart your opponent. I hope you guys enjoyed playing chess over this quarantine break.